Welcome to the Retire with Peace podcast, the podcast where we help you create a fulfilling and stress-free retirement. Each week, we bring you expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you plan and live your best retirement life. Whether you're nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Let's embark on this journey together and discover how to retire with peace.
Welcome back to the Retire with Peace podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave Zaegel, and this episode is brought to you by CWOs for Hire, which is the financial planning firm that I co-own, where we focus on retirement and tax planning. We are in a season of bringing on new clients. That doesn't happen year-round, or that would be chaos. So we have certain seasons where we bring on new clients, and this is one of them. So if you're looking for help with your retirement planning, please feel free to reach out to us at cwosforhire.com, and we can have a discussion about what you're looking for and whether it is a good fit for us to work together. Well, today, my friends, I am here to tell you that yes, recession is coming. The great news is that nobody has any clue when. So let's talk a little bit about that. This might be a bit of a continuation from our previous episode, but I wanted to circle back to it because we talk about controlling what we can control. So I want to get into some more specifics about what does that mean? What are we controlling? How do we do that? We're not going to take a deep dive into that, but we want to talk about that. But first, let's set the stage for this whole recession thing. We have been hearing over and 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 over again for the past 15 years since the great financial crisis. We have been hearing that recession is coming. In fact, as we were coming out of the financial crisis in the years 2010, 11, 2012, even as the stock market kept moving back up, we would hear all sorts of things about this move higher, it's a head fake, it's going to crash again. In fact, I remember sitting with another financial advisor. He was just talking about how the S&P is going to fall back all the way down to 500 or 600. I'm like, this is crazy. This is insane. I would hate to have worked with him because the S&P is over 5,000 now. So thanks for nothing. But all this talk about how it's going to crash again, and all it did was fly higher. So we spent the past 15 years, and all the time, including now, people have been talking about recession coming for whatever reason. Pick your indicator. It could be, look at the government spending. Could be look at the payroll report. It could be look at the inflation report. Could be look at consumer confidence. Look at interest rates. Look at taxes. Look at who's getting elected. You name it. Pick your data point, and somebody has been screaming about recession coming. It's been fantastic, right? And still to this day, everybody's saying recession's coming, recession's coming, recession's coming. So I always have to laugh when I see this stuff. I saw one, it's been a little while, maybe a month or two ago. Somebody was writing about some of the bigger companies, all the tech companies that have done really well. So NVIDIA is kind of the poster child. It's had a great rise. But I actually laughed out loud because I was going on the list of the companies that they said we're going to crash soon. So not just perform poorly, but crash. And I laughed when I saw Apple's name. I had to laugh because I thought, well, how long has this person been waiting for Apple to crash? 5 years, 8 years, 10 years? Like what's the time frame here? What's going to magically cause them to crash? I mean, we're not talking like decline or have a rough time. They were specifically saying crash. It's ridiculous, first of all. But putting that aside, there's just always this constant noise and fear around recession or things crashing. And do things change over time? Sure. Do recessions happen? Absolutely. Yes. Here's the thing. Recession is coming, and we have no idea when. Nobody knows. I don't know. It's not really worth worrying about. In fact, I bring up the last 15 years to point this out because, as I mentioned, it's been over and over and over and all the time, constantly people predicting recession. So over these 15 years, 15 really good years, do you know how long we've been in a recession? 2 months. For 2 months out of 15 years, we've been in a recession, and people have been screaming about it the whole time and worrying about it the whole time. And I just wonder how much money people lost or missed out on because they were freaking out about a possible recession. So are recessions going to happen? Yes, a lot of them. There's probably going to be multiple recessions during your retirement. The point is not to freak out about them. I know I'm being really strong about this, but it just keeps coming, just year after year, month after month, day after day. People screaming about the coming recession, and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen unless COVID arrives, and then it happens. And that's the kind of stuff that we worry about is what if some outside factor causes this to crumble? Like that, we don't see those things coming. We need to plan for that and make sure we have some safety money in the meantime. And if we can see things unraveling, really as we did, and I'm not just saying us, but a lot of people did see that coming in the financial crisis because I don't know that anybody realized how big it was going to be, but you could start to see a lot of things unraveling. So it wasn't impossible to avoid all the downside, meaning enough people were able to see it coming where you caught some of the decline, but you're able to see over time how big that was going to be, and you could take some risk off the table at that point in time. But I say all that to say, even if you didn't adjust, even if you didn't see that coming, you could have still been set up as we set up right now to protect against that huge decline. And you would have been fine long term. This worked in the Great Recession. This worked in the Great Depression. This worked in the dot-com crash. This worked in the 90s or the savings and loan crisis. This worked in the 1987 flash crash, which didn't really last all that long, but it still sounds scary. All this stuff has worked over those periods of time. The 1970s, which we had high inflation and low growth. This works. So let's go over what this is and how we are helping clients. We've talked about this before, but I wanted to bring it up because there's so much fear happening right now that we have to understand that if we plan for it properly, it's really not all that scary and we can retire with peace. We talk about this all the time, having 5 years worth of income set and not being impacted by the market. That can be in a number of different things. A lot of people use bond funds for this. I'm not as much of a fan because bond funds can be sensitive with interest rates. So it can benefit you. If interest rates decline, bond funds can go up. If interest rates go up, bond funds will decline. But I prefer to use individual bonds, structured notes, CDs. We can use some short-term bond funds because you're not going to have as much interest rate impact, or just sometimes straight cash. But all these things are out of the market already, and you're not going to see huge swings. And we're really looking at lining up the maturity dates on these pieces with when you're going to need the income. Therefore, when a recession happens, when the stock market goes crazy, not if, but when, these things will happen and they're okay. Recessions don't have to be scary. We've done a podcast episode on recessions not needing to be scary because they could just be short recessions. They might be long recessions. They could be short. They could be big. They could be small. It's still okay. Recession is a big, scary word. But if we're planning for this, if we have at least 5 years of income set aside, not tied to what the stock market's doing, then we know that we've given ourselves most likely enough time in every piece of history, the last 100 plus years, that 5 years would have been enough time to let the stock market come back and start to regrow again. But in the meantime, you have your income set. That's really helpful because not only do you have that security, but you might also be able to take advantage of things in the recession. I've talked before about, it's been a little while, but I did an episode about how personally I bought a house during the 2008, 2009 crash. We weren't planning on buying a house, but we were planning on buying a house probably in 4 or 5 years. But when the housing crash happened, we said, hey, let's jump in. Let's take this as an opportunity. So if you have this set up to where you have set income for at least 5 years, not only are you safe and you can let the rest of the investments come back and grow, but you might be able to take advantage of some things, maybe lower real estate prices, maybe lower interest rates at that time, because the Fed's probably going to drop interest rates if we go into some economic uncertainty. You might be able to buy more investments at lower prices. All sorts of opportunities are there if we control what we can control ahead of time and get these set up to where we have our guaranteed income. And for us, we say at least 5 years. In some cases, if we've had a really good run in the market, we might bump that out to 6 or 7 years, just to give us a little more cushion. That 6th or 7th year is not scientific per se, but it's just another extra cushion for us against these downturns. So all this recession talk, and I know I was pretty rough on those calling recession, which I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying, all this recession talk has been going on for so long with nothing happening. Please just ease your mind and understand that recessions will happen, that we can prepare for them and still be in great shape, not just, okay shape. We can be in awesome shape if we prepare for it ahead of time by how we structure these investments. That's what we talk about when we say control, we can control. We can control our investment structure and how much income we have coming in. We can have a good amount of control over our taxes as we plan that out over the long term and take advantage of things each year. We can look at all these different what ifs and say, who cares? You want to throw a recession at me? Go for it. Don't care. We got the income. And by the way, if recession comes, we're ready to take advantage of it. So bring it on. Keep the recession calls coming. In fact, I don't mind when the stock market drops a little bit, provides us with some opportunities. But for you who are planning your retirement and wanting to retire in peace, please don't freak out with these recession calls and all this other stuff that gets thrown at you in the news. Yes, I know it's scary. It's out there a lot. But just understand that if you plan for it ahead of time and you're assuming that it's going to happen, then you can take advantage of it. Doesn't have to be a big scary thing. It can be a very opportunistic thing. We just need to make sure we are controlling what we can control, set that income for at least 5 years, and then let the rest of the assets grow for growth over the long term. And you'll be in great shape to be able to retire with much more peace. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I really appreciate your support and hope you found value in the conversation. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Your feedback helps keep the show growing. Until next time, take care and stay strong as we learn to retire with peace.